Our second speaker is Ofira Gruweis-Kovalsky. She is a senior lecturer at the Zafed Academic College and associate researcher at the Herzl Institute of Haifa University. Dr. Gruweis' field of interest is the political history of the State of Israel. Her research is interdisciplinary and developed along two theoretical lines. One, exploring myths, symbols, communication from a political and national perspective, and two, exploring the geographical issues and their impact on Israeli politics. Gruweis-Kovalsky's primary focus is on Israeli right, the right wing of Israeli politics. Okay. She is the author of articles, for example, Life After Death, Yair Abraham Stern as an Israeli Mythos, Israel 2020, in Hebrew, and The General Zionist and the Witzo Party, A Tale of Light and Shadows, Israel First 2021, and Jerusalem 1948-1952 as a no man's land, Israel policy in Jerusalem as an arena of the Cold War in the Middle Eastern Studies, 2022. She is also the author and editor of several books, and in the coming months a new book will be published by the Bar-Ilan University under the name Secular Conservative Women in Israeli Right-Wing Parties Between Issue to State.
Thank you very much. I hope you will have enough strength to, in this late hour that everybody wants to sleep. I can conclude, usually if I'm talking about the revisionist movement, we can conclude their attitude where the British mandate and say they're against, they want to end it, and that's I conclude my. But the map of Palestine appended to the British mandate for Palestine document was used for many years as the emblem of the revisionist movement and its political successor even after the establishment of the state. And here you can see the map of the mandate. It became the most recognizable of all revisionist symbols. Most people connected these symbols with the doctrine of a greater Israel or as the two banks of the Jordan River symbol. But why would the revisionists who fought bitterly against the British mandate rule and view themselves as those who helped to precipitate its end, sanctified a map drawn up for the purpose of the mandate? Why would they embrace a map with the borders drawn by French and British to accommodate their own vested interest, entirely disconnected from history, geography, or demography, let alone Zionist explorations? In my lecture, I would like to explore the attitude of the revisionist movement and its organization to British mandate with focus on the differences of opinion within the movement and how these led to the adoption of and canonization of the iconic maps. You can't explore the attitude of the revisionist movement without talking about their mythological leaders, Jabotinsky. Jabotinsky, an Odessa-born writer, poet, translator, and journalist, was one of the outstanding leaders of the Zionist right. Until today, he is held as the founding father of the revisionist movement and its successor. His followers called him something wrong? okay. His follower called him Father of the Revolt, title that researchers examined its validity. To study Zev Jabotinsky's outlook on the British mandate, we must look first and foremost at what he believed needed to be done to establish a Jewish state. Jabotinsky took his cue from the policy outlined by Theodor Herzl, who said the Jewish state must be anchored in international agreement. He made this clear in his speeches and in written work. For example, in 1926, and I quote, אני חושבת שלא רואים את הכל, מוזיק קצת the issue is not that it is difficult to build a state without politics, but that is impossible. There is no trick that will help, and there are no shortcuts, because there is only one path which Herzl carved out for us, and that is diplomatic Zionism. The building of a national home is a diplomatic process. Industry is a diplomatic process. And the same is true for agriculture, immigration, and so on. It's all begin with diplomatic warfare. In Jabotinsky's understanding, and I quote again, when two states negotiate with the League of Nations at home and between themselves, they appeal not only to the consciousness and morality, but also and above all to the joint recognition that each side is capable of causing genuine unpleasantness. This was the idea underlying his theory of pressure. Jabotinsky's pressure theory was based on the understanding that international politics and diplomacy were the way to protect the interests of the people and the state. Therefore, in order to win or safeguard political achievement, the only choice was to enter to the political international arena. Throughout most of his life, Jabotinsky envisioned the Jewish state as part of the British dominion. After the 1929 riots and the publication of the second white paper, Jabotinsky was highly critical of the action of the British administration in Palestine. Yet, he repeatedly assured British leaders that he met in London that he was not against Britain. When the Arab uprising began in 1936, Jabotinsky found himself in conflict with the revisionist movement and the underground, which took sharp revisionist turn after the return of Avram Tehom to the Haganah. The two issues in dispute were the policy of restraint in the response to attack on Jewish villages and the hostility toward the British. In light of the Arab revolt and the Peel Commission's petition, recommendation, Jabotinsky believed that the Jewish state should be established under British auspices as stipulated in the mandate document or governed as British dominion. This was the basis of his opposition, the border proposed by the Peel Commission. And I quote again, the Jewish state will become a target for a greed and come under attack at the first opportunity, argue. This is inevitable and will occur any time that the British Empire is having a problem somewhere else. In global reality in 1938, fear of intervention of forces hostile to Great Britain was not irrational. Jabotinsky not only perceived the mandate as the globally legitimate foundation for the establishment of the Jewish state, but adopted a stance that was fundamentally pro-British. In the late 30s, this outlook was given visual expression through his use of the mandate map in his lectures and writing. And we can see this map is from his lecture in the before the Peel Commission in 1938. 1937. Jabotinsky's unique territorial approach was evident from the earliest days of his political career. His famous poem, Smola Yarden, or Left of the Jordan River, a copy of which is sent to Yardenia, the Zionist Student Association in Kovno, Lithuania, in 1929, lays out of the boundaries of Eretz Israel as he understood them. This poem, widely known as the Shtei Gadot LaYarden, two banks of the Jordan River, based on the line of the course, went on to become the unofficial anthem of the revisionist movement. From the 30s, two banks of the Jordan River became the motto of the revisionist movement, although there were also non-revisionist organizations that envisaged the same border for the Jewish state. In the Jewish world, Zionist and non-Zionist, Eretz Israel as a concept included the land of both sides of the Jordan River, keeping with historic depiction. But look at all kind of, I hope you can see, this map have no, most of them have no border. That was, it's just the map of the Jordan is in the middle, and there is no border of most of the map. The first from here is the, I don't know what.
No demarcation lines.
Oh, yeah. Now you can see. This map is from the Keren Kayemet LeIsrael, Jewish National Fund. This is the Machanot HaOlim. You can see the map, Machanot HaOlim's emblem. This is the box of the Jewish National Fund, and also the Jordan is in the middle. And this is the Palestine claim in 1919 by the World Zionist Organization to the mandate, the League of Nations. Okay, this is the only map that I found with border, using border. So the revisionists were no different in this respect. The publication of Jabotinsky's poem and the use of the two banks motto did not lead the revisionist movement to or related organization to come up with a new maps or graphic symbol containing a map. And we can see the revisionist map. You can see here the parallel organization to the Jewish National Fund is the Tel Chai organization. So they use the map of the Keren Kayemet Israel. You can see the official newspaper of the revisionist Hayarden. Also, you can see this map. It's the same as used in the Keren Kayemet Israel. Jabotinsky's testimony before the Peel Commission in London was the first time when he used the map of the mandate. This in the middle, I took it with, from a lecture of Jabotinsky. You can see it's before his lecture in the Peel Commission, and he used another map. The first time that he used a map in his lecture with the border of the mandate of Palestine, it was before the Peel Commission, and later on this was the only map he used in his lecture after this event. It made clear that the map did not serve the idea of the greater Israel. And From that point on, the map Jabotinsky displayed in his lectures was the mandate map. The map became central to Jabotinsky's argument because he felt that there was no legal instrument of greater importance for Jews at that time. He insists that the British make good on their commitment. Another reason for his extensive use of the map was the running dispute in the revisionist movement. Not all the revisionists agree with him. Some were more moderate, and most of them are more radical. Jabotinsky, aspiring as a spot somewhere in the middle, sought to downplay the disagreement, especially with the radicals who wished to break away from the British and abolish the mandate altogether. The revisionists in Palestine were ringleader of the militant approach. The hanging of Shlomo ben Yosef was particularly traumatic for them. This incident loomed in the background when Beitar's Third World Congress opened in September 1938, leading to raucous debates. One of the most important of this debate, which has been researched extensively, was the standoff between Menachem Begin and Jabotinsky. In practice, the argument was over how the Jewish state should be established and the attitude toward the British mandate. Menachem Begin told Jabotinsky that they were prepared for a fight and the era of political Zionism was over. Those who were active in Etzel and supportive of Avraham Stern Yair, in whose name Begin loudly spoke, insist that there was no solution for the Jewish anywhere in the world, and Jabotinsky's style, political Zionism, was bankrupt. Not only was his confrontation reported in the revisionist newspaper, but it affected the very future of the revisionist press. And I must add, the revisionist movement attributed great importance to the press in its battle for political support. For that reason, the revisionists established newspapers in many languages, even when their finances were low. From September through November 1938, when Beitar World Congress was in session, posters and flyers were distributed with the logo of a new revisionist newspaper called Hamashkif that would soon be published. And you can see, I hope you can see the first one of these posters. The paper's logo contained a clear hint with regard to his ideological, Jabotinsky ideological orientation and the difference between Hamashkif and the old newspaper, Hayarden. And now you can see, hope you can see, you see the map of the mandate from Hamashkif, and here is the map of Eretz Israel with no border. Okay? It showed a map of Eretz Israel that different from the map of the masthead of the Hayarden and also from the map of Eretz Israel used by the revisionist movement for various purposes until then. It was based on a map appended to the British mandate document. The radical response to Hamashkif was not long in coming, and the objections were not limited to verbal content. It became a battle over graphic too. The radical contents Hamashkif use of the amended map. Free Jerusalem, a Polish language journal published in maximalist revisionist move associated with Avraham Stern, respond to the ideology of the new paper visually as well as verbally. In November 1938, the cover of the Free Jerusalem, it's not the first one, it was the fifth, you can see here, number 5. Okay? The 5th edition of this journal. Okay, the cover of the Free Jerusalem feature an illustration composed of 3 graphic elements: a hand holding a gun, the League of Nations map from 1922, and the word in Polish, tik or tak, only this way. It was drawing that signifies fierce opposition to any diplomatic process and rejection of all of the British mandate. For the editor of Free Jerusalem, the only solution for the Jews was the use of force, and their evocation of the battle cry of Pilsudski soldier, from whom they draw inspiration. It's tik or tak. In this issue, as in previous issue, the editorial line was clear. Jabotinsky was mistaken. And the only way to save the Jewish people and establish a Jewish state was through armed struggle, as illustrated by the hand grasping a rifle, not the map. The British mandatory rule had to be fought. This was symbolized by the hand with the rifle being superimposed over the mandate map. They were against the mandate and regard British as the supreme enemy of the Jewish people. If I conclude all what I have said, and this is you can see how the emblem was used. A mashkif was established due to a disagreement within the revisionist movement over the British mandate, leading to illustrations that were turned into a symbol of the movement. The debate of the British rule had nothing at all to do with the doctrine of Greater Israel or the two sides of the River Jordan. It's nothing with that, even though if you will ask the successor, even today, the successor of the revisionist movement, what does it mean, this symbol? They say this is the two sides of the Jordan River, even though there is nothing to do with the Greater Israel doctrine. This is not the case. The debate was over British rule, and they had nothing, as I said, with Greater Israel. Jabotinsky died soon after these events, and Menachem Begin rise to helm as a commander of the Etzel, hastened the process of the forgetfulness and imprinted a certain image of how the revisionists felt about the British mandate in the Israeli mind. Thank you very much.